Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Bludborn, and in this video we're going to be counting down the top 5 raids in the Lord of the Rings Online. Now before we get started, make sure to click the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up if you liked the video, and be sure to leave a comment. Also, take a second to head over to my Twitch channel and follow there for all of my live content. And finally, be sure to join my Discord, and I'll have all of the links down in the description. Now, raiding in LOTRO has been around almost as long as the game has, and there's been some pretty iconic raids over the years. From defeating infamous enemies and to getting legendary loot, to visiting some of the most notable locations in Middle-earth, raiding has provided some of the most challenging and rewarding experiences in LOTRO. That being said, let's take a look at the 5 best raids in the Lord of the Rings Online. Now, starting off with an honorable mention, I'm going to throw out the Hiddenhoard of Abnankara. This is the current raid that we're currently doing. I'm enjoying the story, and the encounters are pretty cool with some interesting mechanics, fighting Hrimil Frostheart and some of her minions. And it's nice to get back into the progression side of things. Now, the downside is here, it's almost changing weekly with tweaks and fixes, so it's not really done yet. So we'll have to kind of see how we go from there. Coming in at number 5, we have the Anvil of Winterstith. Now, the Anvil of Winterstith is a level 120 raid set in the ancient glacier of the Withered Heath in the Grey Mountains area. This continues the story of the dwarves reclaiming areas that had been overtaken or lost over the years. In particular, you're continuing the story of the Weeping Warrior and are introduced to the Voice of Madness with Hrimil Frostheart. Anvil was a unique raid because it introduced Tier 3 difficulty to raiding and also optional side boss encounters. This opened up more progression for more challenge-oriented kins while also opening up access to a wider range of players. This raid also revisited a random component with one of the encounters in the 13 Kings, in that the individual dwarves in the encounter would change every week. Now, Anvil was the first raid that had individual chest locks rather than solely group stage locks as well. And also on a fun note, Anvil has a nice little nod to the Empire Strikes Back. With one of the side bosses, you'll notice a Yeti in a cave with a skeleton hanging in the ice with a sword in the snow nearby. At number 4, we have Dar Narbugud, leveling referred to as DN. Dar Narbugud is a level 60 raid and is the first multi-boss raid of the Moria level cap. DN takes place in the Foundations of Stone, and you're tasked with finding sources of corruption spreading through the lower levels within Moria. DN is a traditional raid that has its 6 boss encounters, each dropping a specific barter token for a piece of class set gear. At the time, this raid was pretty challenging for only having 1 tier of difficulty with a special hidden fight. Very few players have ever been able to accomplish Blind 1 hard mode. It's one of the most stressful fights I have ever been a part of in a game. The idea is that you encounter the first boss, you could then go to the next 3 bosses in any order that you want, and then progress to the Blind 1 normally. Or, the additional challenge, you could skip those 3 middle bosses and go fight the Blind 1. The issue here is that the Blind 1 will summon all of the powers and abilities from the 3 bosses you skipped, making this one super chaotic fight. It's much easier to do now, but back during the level 60 level cap, it was something else entirely. Now, the final fight with the Mistress of Pestilence was a good fight. It took a good amount of coordination with her several different phases, stuns, and all that kind of stuff. And DN is a solid raid, and I do miss this style of raiding. Coming in at number 3, we have the Tower of Orthanc. In this raid, Saruman holds command over Isengard and has forged his very own rings of power that you will need to destroy. The Tower of Orthanc was incredibly fun and had 2 tiers of difficulty meant for level 75 players. The Tower of Orthanc was split up into different wings based on the different rings of power associated with that area. The Ring of Acid, the Ring of Lightning, the Ring of Shadow, the Rings of Fire and Frost, and Saruman's Ring. Each wing had its boss with its own unique mechanics, with challenge modes available at Tier 2 versions of the encounters. Tower of Orthanc had a pretty awesome title for the most committed of raiders, Original Challenger of Saruman. This hidden deed could only be unlocked once by the first raid on each server that completed the Tower of Orthanc on Tier 2 challenge mode in a single run. So any character that you see running around wearing the Original Challenger of Saruman was present in the first single run takedown on their server. A fun note, the avatar that I use for all of my social media and everything is actually wearing my Isengard armor. Now the runner-up on this list, coming in at number 2, is Throne of the Dread Terror. Throne of the Dread Terror was a fantastic raid with very different boss mechanics, difficult challenge modes, and just overall awesome boss encounters. Throne of the Dread Terror is a level 105 raid set during the Siege of Minas Tirith, and in this raid we wrap up the story of Galadir and Gothmog from way back in Shadows of Angmar. The story and the scenery in this raid are awesome and are something that you should try to experience if you've never had the chance. I highly recommend it. There are 6 boss encounters, each requiring very different strategies, and I have to say, Unbroken One on Tier 2 Challenge is probably up there as a solid number 2 as most difficult encounters next to the Blind One Hard mode. Anytime you have to leave enemies alive while you kill the main boss, well, that's just going to be a unique challenge. Now before we reveal the number 1, make sure to tell me in the comments what you think are the top raids in the game, and don't forget to subscribe for more LOTRO content. Alright, so you had to know this one was coming for number 1. That's right, at number 1 we have the Rift of Nurz Ghasu. The Rift was the second raid in the game, but run in tandem with Heligrod. The Rift is a 12-person raid set at the level 50 cap and has been run countless times at level cap and beyond. It is regarded by many as one of the best raids they have ever played in any game. It had all the right pieces and checked all the boxes. It had a compelling story tied into the landscape. You had to fight massive amounts of elite mobs to even get to the entrance and set up camp. And there were 8 bosses, including one of the coolest overall encounters with Galadriel and Tharlok, the Balrog. This raid set the tone for a lot of people raiding in LOTRO, including myself. Each boss encounter was so unique at the time and offered such special mechanics that you had to pay attention to. From Reflex that could one-shot you, on top of Hope Wipes and Baleful Roars from the Balrog. This encounter with Tharlok was an encounter like no other, and wiping during any phase meant you had a very long walk of shame. Oh, and let's give a special shout out to one of the coolest doors in the game. You know the one I'm talking about. Now on a personal note, this was my first experience raiding in any game, so it does hold a special place in my heart. I met a lot of great people during this time, and even some of those people came to my wedding years later. So there we have it. Those are my top 5 raids in the Lord of the Rings Online. Tell me in the comments if you agree, or tell me what you think were the top raids in the game. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video on YouTube or live stream on Twitch. Take care.